It was 6:17 a.m. on December 25th. While most families in the quiet suburb of Oakhaven were waking up to the sound of children tearing into presents, the police were racing toward 4200 Maple Drive. The call had come in moments earlier from the homeowner, Mark Miller. He was hyperventilating, barely intelligible, screaming that his wife had been hurt. He kept repeating that there was blood everywhere. When the first responders arrived, the scene they walked into was a nightmare. Lying next to the Christmas tree, right in the middle of a pile of unopened gifts, was 34-year-old Sarah Miller. Her husband Mark was kneeling beside her, his silk pajamas soaked in blood. He told the officers that someone had broken in, a robbery gone wrong on Christmas morning. But have you ever heard a story that just felt rehearsed? As detectives began to secure the scene, looking at the festive decorations and the grieving husband, that intruder theory didn't just feel wrong, it felt like a performance. And the man delivering it was about to make a series of mistakes that would reveal a much darker truth. To really understand why this happened, you have to look at the image this family projected. You know that one couple in your neighborhood? The ones who seem to have the perfect house, the perfect kids, the perfect life? That was Sarah and Mark. Sarah was the PTA president. She volunteered for everything. Her Instagram feed was a curated gallery of suburban bliss. She was the glue holding the community together. Mark was a high-end financial consultant. To everyone in their wealthy enclave, they were the golden couple, especially at Christmas. Sarah went all out. The lights, the parties, the decorations, it was her time to shine. But we all know that social media isn't real life, don't we? Usually, the harder someone works to make things look perfect on the outside, the more chaotic things are on the inside. And inside the Miller house, the foundation was already rotting away. Let's back up to Christmas Eve, less than 12 hours before that frantic 911 call. The Millers were hosting their annual holiday bash. Guests later told police that the party was beautiful, but the vibe was weird. Mark was drinking a lot. He was pacing around the kitchen, looking like he wanted to jump out of his skin. One neighbor, a woman named Karen, caught a moment that gave her goosebumps. Sarah had accidentally dropped a tray of appetizers. It was a minor accident, nothing to worry about. But Karen said the look Mark gave his wife wasn't just annoyance, it was pure venom. It lasted just a second, and then he smiled again, but it was enough to make the hair on her arms stand up. Imagine being in that room. Would you have noticed that look? Or would you have just brushed it off as holiday stress? By 10:30 p.m., the house was quiet. The guests were gone. The kids were tucked into bed, waiting for Santa. According to Mark's initial statement, he and Sarah cleaned up, had a nightcap by the fire, and went to sleep around midnight. He claimed he woke up at 6 a.m., found Sarah missing from bed, went downstairs and discovered her body. He pointed the police to a broken pane of glass on the back French doors. There, he told them. That's where they got in. On the surface, it makes sense. A burglary, a tragedy. But the cops immediately noticed something that Mark, in his panic, had overlooked. 2 hours later, Mark was sitting in an interrogation room. If you watch the footage of this interview, his behavior is fascinating. He's doing a lot of grieving, making sobbing noises, but if you look closely, his eyes remain relatively dry. He keeps rubbing his face aggressively, almost like he's trying to force tears that aren't coming. The lead investigator, Detective Henderson, pulled a classic move. He walked into the room and said nothing. He just sat there. If you were innocent and your wife had just been murdered while your children were upstairs, wouldn't you be screaming for answers? Wouldn't you be demanding they find the guy who did it? Mark didn't do that. Instead, he started justifying himself. He started rambling, saying, "I don't understand who would do this. We don't have enemies. Why didn't I hear them? I should have heard the glass break. Did you catch that? Why didn't I hear them?" Nobody had asked him why he didn't hear it. He was answering a question that hadn't been asked yet. He was trying to get ahead of the story. He knew it was a plot hole, sleeping through a window smashing, so he was trying to patch it up before the detectives even pointed it out. But the biggest problem wasn't what he said. It was the physics of the crime scene. Forensics teams had taken a close look at that broken back door. Almost all of the shattered glass was lying on the outside, on the patio deck. Think about that for a second. If you smash a window to get into a house, where does the glass go? It falls inside, onto the kitchen floor. For the glass to land outside, the window had to be broken from the inside. Plus, the hole in the glass was tiny. Unless the burglar was the size of a toddler, nobody was fitting through that gap without cutting themselves to ribbons. And yet, there was no blood trail leading away from the door. And then there was the snow. It had snowed heavily all night. The backyard was a pristine white blanket. There were absolutely no footprints leading up to the house or away from it. So, unless the killer could fly, nobody came through that door. When detectives finally pointed this out to Mark, he didn't get confused. He got angry. He crossed his arms, leaned back, and shut down. That's the fight response kicking in when a lie begins to crumble. But why kill the mother of his children on Christmas morning? While Mark was sweating in that interrogation room, forensic accountants were tearing apart the family's life. It turns out, the golden couple of Oakhaven was broke. Mark had leveraged the house, maxed out every credit card, and borrowed money from everyone he knew. They were days away from foreclosure. Here's the smoking gun: Sarah's iPad. Digital forensics showed that at 11 p.m. on Christmas Eve, after the guests left, Sarah had accessed Mark's secret email account. She saw the foreclosure notice, she saw the debt. Imagine that moment. The party is over, the house is quiet, and suddenly Sarah realizes her entire life is a lie. Detectives believe she confronted him right then and there. The stress, the shame, the alcohol, it all boiled over. Mark didn't kill her in a sudden fit of passion, though. Staging that burglary took time. He had to break the glass. He had to toss the room to make it look like a robbery, all while his kids were sleeping just a few yards away upstairs. And the most heartbreaking detail? There was a gift for Sarah under the tree. A diamond tennis bracelet. Mark had bought it on a credit card that was already $15,000 over the limit. It was a shiny, expensive symbol of the delusion that ended up costing Sarah her life. Mark Miller eventually stopped talking, but the evidence screamed the truth. The physics of the glass, the lack of footprints, the financial ruin, it was an open and shut case. He was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole. The scariest part of this story isn't the murder itself, it's how normal everything looked from the outside. It makes you look at your own neighbors a little differently, doesn't it? Sarah Miller spent her life trying to build a perfect world. In the end, she was destroyed by the lies required to keep it standing. Do you think the pressure to keep up appearances is getting worse with social media? Or has it always been this dangerous? Let me know what you think in the comments.